Hey guys, give me just a minute here. We're going to try to get Jacob online here with us. Give me just a minute here. We'll try to get him on here. Just bear with us, guys. It takes just a second here sometimes. It says he's connected.
Live.
Good evening, Jacob.
What's up, brother?
Man, a little horse talk here. Guys, I want to welcome Jacob Parks. He's a gaited horse trainer out of out of Hickory Valley, Tennessee. He's a well-known speed racking, single footing. They say he's one of the best out there. They say he is the best single foot and gaited horse trainer in the world. So it's pretty honored for me to have him here with us tonight. We're going to pick his brain a little bit. I've never met Jacob myself personally, but I've seen him online a lot, and I think he thinks a lot like I do. So it's a privilege to me to have you tonight. And Jacob, I want to thank you for your time and for joining me here and sharing your knowledge with us, the people that's wanting to view this.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, brother.
Okay. All right. Guys, this ain't rehearsed. We're just going to kind of let this fly, just live here. We're gonna talk some horses. I got some questions for some people. I told y'all if y'all have any questions, just send the questions. And I've shared some of these questions with Jacob, and we can talk about them together. Cindy Bertram, how you doing tonight? Thanks for joining and watching us. One of the questions I have here is a lady named Sally Bochard. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. Sally, you sent a question, and hey, Brandon Ross, how you doing, man?
What's up, brother?
Sally, you sent a question. You want to know, said, how do you keep your horse from getting bored and frustrated when trying to work on their gait? And I'll let Jacob tune in on this too, or whatever he thinks. But my personal opinion is learning can be difficult. Learning can be boring. I know it was for me, and I can't say was. It still is. I learn every day, but I do know when I was, went through school and things like that, I got frustrated and aggravated at times. But what made it worth it at the end of the day was whenever I actually started learning things, and I knew that I was getting somewhere. So to put this in short, hey Kelly, how you doing? Put this in short, to keep your horse from getting frustrated when you're asking him to work on his gait. My opinion, he's gonna get a little frustrated. Until he knows what you're asking him, and you need to let your horse. Let him understand that what you're asking him and when to relieve pressure. When you're putting pressure on him, trying to teach him his gait and things like that, and when he starts doing good, when he starts doing what you're asking, you need to praise him and let him know that he's doing a good job, not just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. It's the little steps that counts. You can't have everything all in one day. Hey Kelly, how you doing? The little steps. If you're asking a horse, you got one to trot, and he starts a gaiting a little bit. He's starting to do his 4-beat. Don't just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Give him a praise just as quick as you start getting it. Give him praise. He's going to get a little frustrated, but if you give him praise whenever he starts doing a good job and he understands what you're looking for, I feel that that's a very helpful thing. A horse, once a horse learns what you're asking, then he's not going to be as frustrated. Jacob, what do you think about that question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page. If you go too far, you can go too far and getting good stuff. You can keep trying to get good stuff. You can go too far where you can actually make that horse start rebelling. So it's very, very important. I train a lot of saddlebreds and half saddlebreds, and one of the most important things is we might get 20 feet of gait one day, and boom, we're going to stop. We're going to pet. We're going to let them walk. I'll even let them trot it out sometimes just to let their, give their muscles a break. And then the next day we might get 30, 40, 50 feet of gait. We're going to praise and pet some more. So it's very, very important. I see a lot of people just dog their horses out in trying to get good, better, better, better. And you've got to instill in that horse's mind that, hey, when you do good, we're going to get a break and you're going to get a pet. The praising is the most important tool in training, I believe. And so I do a ton of that. And if a horse is, if he's aggravating me, I'm going to aggravate him back. I'm going to aggravate him until he says, hey, I'm tired of this. I'm fixing a gate for him. And then when they feel the aggravation stop, then boom, it clicks into their mind that, hey, if we gate or if we do this or that that he's asking of me, then he's not going to aggravate me. So I think the boredom and the aggravation that people get from their horse, that can be overcome by throwing the aggravation right back at the horse. Whether it's getting the horse off of balance or whether it's moving your hands just slightly to aggravate him in the mouth, and then boom, stop aggravating when you get the gate and when you get the good stuff. So man, praise is one of the most important tools in my opinion. It clicks with them.
That's right. Got to have something. They got to have something they're working towards.
Exactly.
They got to know that they're making you happy. Once they know that they're satisfying you, and like you just said, if they're doing the wrong thing, you let them know they're doing the wrong thing.
Exactly.
You don't just sit up there like a sack of taters and expect the horse to fix itself.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. You need to let him know what he's doing is wrong, and then praise him for the right things. That's great. I'm right with you, man.
And I'm gonna tell you what, those things will take advantage of you if a person, and it all starts with one little small step of letting your horse get away with something, whether it's looking away from you and walking over top of you. I mean, I see people letting horses just bump all into them all the time, and I'm like, look, get your horse away from you. You've got to establish some respect, or that horse is going to get he's going to be bad on the ground, then he's going to get worse under saddle, and then you've just got a nightmare. So you can overcome those things, but you've got to start with the simple stuff, with the basic stuff, on the ground. And I like to start them from a colt. I mean, I would much rather start a 2-year-old that nobody's ever even touched than to get on a horse that's been through 3, 4, 5 different hands.
Absolutely. Because of them 3 or 4 or 5 different hands has actually taught that horse to be rebellious.
Ultimately, the perfect scenario for me is I raise my colt. I'm messing with that colt from the day he's born. I've got hands on him, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months old, up to a yearling, up to a 2-year-old. I got to give my wife credit for handling her little baby as much as she does, because I kid her. I said, your baby's 3 months old, and you could probably stick a saddle on her and ride her now. So it all starts from the basics can be taught from a newborn baby. And so when you start right then and you keep that training progressing, up 2 or 3 years old, man, your job is easy as pie.
Yes, that's correct, man. I couldn't agree with you more. So, Sally, I hope that answers your question there. Sometimes these horses can get a little aggravated, but like we just got done saying, you just give them a little praise and let them know what they're working for, and let them know that what they're doing is a good thing, and give them a little praise, and you'll see progress quickly. Got another question here from a lady called Brenda Lacey. Brenda, she asked a question. She has a horse that she could trail ride all day. She loves this horse. It's her personal horse, and she trail rides it all day. And then on the way back home, it it knows it's going home and it wants to pull the bridle real bad, the bits. It actually, where she has to wrap the reins around her hands. She said the whites of her knuckles will show where the reins is pressed on her so hard she can't hold that horse. But she rides it like this constantly every day, and she said it's just getting out of it where she can't do nothing with it, and it hurts her so bad that she's going to have to probably get rid of the horse, even though she loves it so much. So she needs some help and some advice on that. And the way what I would do is something like that if I had it here, and I see that a lot with a lot of young horses. Ones that I'm training, though, they know where the house is. They know when they turn around, start heading home, that their work's almost finished for the day, and they get a little excited and they want to get back to the barn. And you got one that starts trying to do that, starts trying to take back toward the barn real fast on you, or don't want to stop and listen, or wants to pull through the bit. In this case, he wants to. She said he actually over tucks. He tucks his nose plumb into his chest where she can't do nothing with him. He just gets way behind the bit. And what I have done in cases like that is I'll just stop the horse, or do a little one rein stop if it's that bad. I mean, usually if you catch it, nip it in the butt before it ever gets started, it never gets that bad. But if I catch one of doing that, if I was trying to correct that horse, I would do a one rein stop. I'd turn it around and we'd head the opposite direction. Every time it tried to take off with me and try to get faster than me going toward the barn, I'm going to go further away from the barn. And just kind of like what Jacob talked about just a second ago, I'm going to make it mad. I'm going to aggravate it, and I'm going to take it the other way. Every time it tries to do something I don't like, I'm coming back toward the barn, I'm going to do something it don't like, and we're going to leave the barn. And eventually it's going to catch on. It's going to say, hey, every time I try to get in a hurry, this man's taking me further away. That's not working for me. He's going to calm down. He's going to start walking back toward the barn. Make him walk. I don't like to gate him back toward the barn either, especially if you got one like that. I like to let him walk a little bit, sometimes going back toward the barn. And on a real severe case, if you got one that's wanting to bow in real bad like that and he's getting under the bit, behind the bit, I have used overchecks on them and to keep them from dipping down and get behind the bit sometimes. And but like I said, that's a real severe case. That's something I really don't like to do. But if it's really severe, I have used overchecks on it before to keep them from doing that. So, Jacob, what do you think about that question, man?
Man, I'm with you on everything that you said, and even to add to it a little bit, sometimes on horses like that, I'll bring them back to the barn and work them till they can't go no more in the barn and right there by the barn. So if we're out riding and they start getting antsy and want to come back to the barn, you start instilling in their head, all right, we'll go back to the barn, but you're going to work harder at the barn than you do out here on the trail. So then I have been able to overcome a lot of horses by doing that, and then they seem to not mind being out away from the barn so bad when they start figuring out that, hey, I'm going to get my tail worked at the barn. So that's a little something that I think will work on a really aggressive horse, but it also goes back to just nipping it in the bud. You take a young horse with a tender mouth, you can nip that in the bud before it even gets started, but I imagine that this horse has got some age on him, so he's probably got a pretty tough mouth. And, yeah, it's going to be hard on her. And if that horse comes to me or you, either one, for training, it's going to be hard on us. And, I mean, so that all goes back to nipping everything in the bud before it gets too aggressive. But, if you can take that horse back and you can work the dog stew out of him at the barn and try to let him know that, hey, we're going to have nice, easy rides outside, but when we go back to the barn, if you want to get back to the barn, we're going to work. We're not done.
I love it. It's a lot like you would do with a barn-soured horse, sounds like, Jacob, because that's really what he is. He's barn-soured. He's wanting to come back to the barn, right?
Exactly.
Even a lot of people think just because a horse will leave the barn that he's not barn-soured. Just because he leaves, okay, don't mean he ain't barn-soured. He still wants to get back.
That's right.
When you turn around and come back home, and you'll know it. Yeah. So that's a good example of that. Good answer, Jacob. And I hope that, ma'am, I hope that horse works out for you. If this information helps you, try that, and hopefully you can get your horse under control, and you don't have to lose your horse, because she's on the edge of just selling a horse and replacing it with something else, even though she loves the horse, but she just can't handle riding it like that no more. So we hope that works out for you. I got another question out here from a girl named Lindsay Blake Fannin. Lindsay says she's got a horse that gets really spooked by traffic to the point that it isn't safe to ride him on the road. What suggestions or advice do you have to help with that? He's very curious horse, even on the trails or anywhere. He's constantly looking around and noticing everything, and he's super jumpy. So it sounds like she's wanting to ride this horse on the road, and she's a little terrified of it. And you know, it pays to be terrified of something like that. Just jump out in the middle of the road on you, and you'll get somebody hurt or even killed or hurt the horse. Lindsay, what I would suggest on something like that is I would desensitize the crap out of that thing at home before just going out on a trail ride. Make sure that it can handle just about anything you throw out on it. You know, before taking it out into traffic like that. Make sure it can handle things like that. Like you could try like a four-wheeler or something like that at a distance. Do some planned things with it, like a vehicle. If you've got a big farm and you could drive a vehicle by it, or an old tractor or something like that, get it used to things like that before you go out on the real world and the real highway and start doing things that's unplanned, because then you never know what your horse is going to do. I always like to try to plan for things like that. Like I said, just what I've done around here is to get them used to vehicles. Is I'll ride them around here up and down the farm and have a vehicle to follow me around. And sure, yeah, they get scared of it, but they get used to it after a few minutes. And after they get used to that out here on the farm, then I know I'm ready for the road. I don't never just take one out on the road and hope for the best, because you're going to endanger yourself, the horse, and somebody else. You might get somebody killed. So that's my answer on that. Just do a lot of desensitizing and things like that at home, around the farm and stuff before you just take it out on the highway. You know, you might get hurt. What's your thoughts, Jacob?
I'm gonna wait just a minute, because I still got you talking in my earbuds. It's got to catch up.
Got a little lag.
All right, I think we're good now. So yeah, I'll actually give you an example of a horse that I had come in a couple years ago. Turned out to be one of the best horses as far as a show horse, a companion horse that I've ever had. The Bojangles Horse. He had no clue what a highway was. He never been, I guess he never been exposed. But what I like to do, I like to gradually start taking horses out of the barn. Gosh, this thing is still like lagging. Let me try to let me unplug and plug back up. All right, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, I got you now.
You echo and can you hear yourself talking?
Oh man, that was throwing me off. That was weirding me out.
Oh yeah, it does that sometimes, man.
All right, so
internet ain't the greatest.
So yeah, just like you said, man, starting little. You know, this particular horse, the very first time I rode him, when the people brought him to me, he freaked out by the highway, and he fell over with me trying to turn him around. I was like, oh gosh, this is going to be a disaster. But he was fine in the barn. He was fine indoors in my arena. He just had no experience being out around commotion. So what I started doing was just gradually, I'd ride down my barn hallway and go outside the barn little by little and come back in, and I'd just gradually go further. And like you said, we'd go in the back pastures, and my wife would have the truck beside us videoing or whatever, and he was scared to death of it at first, but once he got calmed down with that truck beside him, then we could make our way closer to the highway and make our workouts a little bit longer by the highway. So it's kind of a gradual, progression. And then within 2 or 3 weeks, man, we were riding up beside, the highway 18-wheelers, and he was fine. He just, his basic problem or issue was, trust in his rider too. He really didn't have a whole lot of trust in his rider, and it can be dangerous on top of these things, man. So I mean, do what you can to try to keep yourself, in safer situations, whether it's leading the horse out to a road. Lead your horse out to the road and let vehicles pass so you're not on top of that horse. Try to make it as safe as on yourself as possible. I've led many horses up and down the highway, just walking them,
Groundwork.
yeah, just walking them on foot, and eventually you'll see them start, bringing their head down, eating grass, and you got trucks passing. So you get progress right there. So then the next day do it again. Then the next week saddle him up and ride him out there by it. So it's little steps by little steps and things you can do to try to keep yourself as safe as possible too. You don't have to just jump on your horse and take him right to the road if he's freaked out.
Sure, man. I love it. Good answers, man. I appreciate that. That's awesome. We got some questions here. They kind of scroll through. Amy McKay says, I have a mare that will not back out of the trailer. She does not want to touch the ramp. How do I get her to back out?
Oh, Lord, I just had that problem about a week ago on a horse, man. I was soaking wet trying to get that thing out of the trailer. Number one tool, a stud chain. Get you a stud chain.
There you go.
Yeah, when they feel that pressure on that nose and you let that pressure go when they take a step back and you praise them, that just goes back to pressure and release. When they do good, praise them. When they take that first step on the ramp and you praise them, most of the time they're gonna go on off. But man, just main thing is not releasing that pressure too soon too. You stay on them. Stay on them with that stud chain. Pop that nose, pop that nose, pop that nose, and then when they take a good step back, boom, you praise them, you reward them, you rub all over them, and it'll click very quick. Stud chains are not just for studs. I mean, you can use it to help yourself out. You can make. I have to try to make it easy on myself, as easy as I possibly can, because me and you, we're working with multiple horses a day. So if we're sitting here straining and wearing ourselves out on one horse, gosh, we're going to be dogged out by lunchtime. So any tool, and I mean,
anything to make our job easier. Yeah.
Anything to make your job easier, man. And that stud chain right there is a great tool, and you're not hurting them. You're not cutting into them it's not like that. It's just that chain around that nose puts enough pressure to where they have to respect it. Whereas just a lead rope in our hand, man, we're not as strong as them things are. And if you let them, they gonna run right over top of you. They'll even jump back in there on you if you let them.
That's right. And repetitions, guys, if just in and out, over and over and over and over, and get her desensitized to that ramp. If she's afraid of that ramp, just get her desensitized to it. Just like Jacob said, it's get something that works for you. Use some tools. I mean, don't just regular old halter from Walmart on her or nothing. She ain't gonna respect that. She ain't gonna feel that.
I'll even what I'll do sometimes too, if I have an older horse that's very tough on the nose. I mean, their whole body's tough, their mouth, their nose, and everything. I'll stick me a curb chain around the nose, and I'll hook me another lead rope to the chain on this side, and I'll have the chain on this side. And if I feel comfortable with going back behind the horse like I'm driving the horse, I'll get me enough rope to where if the horse kicks, it's not going to kick me. But I'll have me enough rope to where I'll be back behind that horse like I'm driving it. So I'll simply, apply pressure just like I'm sitting on top of him, backing the horse up, reversing the horse. And so if you've got one that's really bad, that's still wanting to jump over top of you, even with the stud chain, and you're up here at the nose, get you some long lines and get behind that horse and start applying pressure behind the horse like you're backing the horse up. And if you get progress, boom, you can release. You can go up there, you can pet. So you could try that also. That's helped me out tremendously. because
Absolutely.
you've got that other rope on the other side, and that's, you know, twice the pressure.
Good deal. You're lagging just a little bit there, but okay. Yes, sir, man. I appreciate that answer. Think it's a good answer, guys. I hope that helped you. We're going to go on to another question right here. Kelly Westfall. She's got a saddlebred question. We're going to love this one. With saddlebreds, is it better or easier to teach them to rack first before teaching them to set their heads at the rack, or is it easier to teach them to set their heads first, then teach them to rack? Now, boys, I have been under fire for this one for a
Yeah,
while.
boy. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, man, they've eaten me alive.
I'm
The
telling
people, oh, I'm in the mountain horse world up here, Jacob, and you seem like you're out in the middle of the speed racking world down there, and you got a lot more saddlebreds and things like that than I do. And
Yeah.
a lot of people's not used to seeing me on a saddlebred, to be honest with you. I've not trained a bunch of them, and I've not trained a lot of speed racking horses. I'm more of the mountain horse trainer, and it's not because I can't. I just don't have it. You know, they're just not here.
Right.
But I do enjoy it. I do have the privilege of having a few in the barn right now that I'm working with, and one of them, well, they both do it, are super trotty horses, and these are actually half breds too, so they're not even full. They're half Tennessee Walker and half saddlebred,
Right.
and you know, but they're super trotty horses. Me, I don't. A trotty horse, the higher that head goes, he gets a little hollow back, if that's what y'all want to call it. But that's just a temporary thing. We don't expect him to ride like that forever. I'll let him have his nose if he wants to throw his nose back. Which this little horse I'm talking about in particular that's had me under fire for the last 2 weeks. She blows back in the bridle. I can call on her just. And son, she just throws that little head back. I mean, when I call on her, I'll lean back in the bridle. I'll sit back in my saddle like this and get my head over the side because I'm afraid she's gonna bust her nose. She has hit me in the nose. She'll blow that head straight back, and that's not me. And when she blows that head back, all I do is I'm just riding her with my pinkies, and she's a racking, and she's got that old head up there flopping around, but she's hitting a 4-beat, and I let her have it until she establishes that 4-beat real good and consistent, and where she does it without me with just the minimum effort, then I'll slowly start pulling that nose down. I'm not worried about her neck. That neck, I've never seen a horse hold its head too high. Now, it's just my opinion. I've just never seen it. You can't get one too high, in my opinion. But the nose, I like the nose to come down a little bit. I like that nose down, the head back. That's my idea of a good saddlebred, a good racking horse. But now I won't bring that nose down until it hits its 4-beat good and nice. I am not worried about no headset from day one. You start worrying about that headset, in my opinion, you'll sacrifice your gait.
Yeah.
I'll let them have their head. I don't care where that head's at. We'll get them. In the very beginning, it might look like crap. Like I always say, at first they're going to ask you why you're doing it, but at the end they're going to ask you how you did it.
Yeah.
At first they're going to see that horse going down the road and its head's going to be thrown back in your lap, and they're going to laugh. They're going to make fun, and they're going to say you're doing it wrong. It's hollowed out, poor horse. But then after about 2 months later, you're going to see that same horse on that road with this little head tucked in. It's going to be hitting a nice 4-beat. They're going to say, how in the world did you all do that? And that's how. What do you think about that, Jacob? Hopefully they won't be hard on you.
I'm plugging you back in because I had some lag. Yeah, this is a good topic for me because I love the saddlebred. Saddlebred's probably my favorite breed that there is. Dad, he always had them. You know, when I was a little boy, I remember laying out by the driveway and feeling the rumble of the horse hooves as my dad would rack by. But I love the saddlebred, and they're a naturally high-headed horse. So when you start a saddlebred and he's throwing his head back in your face, that's not unnatural. That's natural for a saddlebred. I mean, they are naturally high-headed, elegant horses. So it's not like you're forcing them up there, you know, trying to force something out of them that they're not natural at, because they're naturally high-headed. But in the saddlebred world, if you're going to try to take a saddlebred to the World's Championship horse show, say in the 5 gaited class, I have talked to saddlebred trainers who have not shown their horse until they are 6, 7, 8 years old. So you're looking at 4 years of training that horse. And what they do, they get the walk, trot, canter first. They trot that horse first before they even try to get rack. Now, with us, you know, like with me, I'm trying to get my rack right off the bat, and I'll still let them trot. But yeah, when you're getting gait, especially, you know, out of any trotty horse, it don't even have to be a saddlebred. You know, standardbred trotter, half saddlebred, full saddlebred. Even if it's a trotty going walking horse, you've got trotty going Rockies and walking horses. So you let that head come up. That's when they get their feet to moving. You've got to get them legs and the feet to moving before you even worry about the headset. Where a lot of horses get ruined is people sending these trotty horses to trainers and tying their heads down between their legs and making them pace. That's where you can, you know, screw up from the beginning, is trying to get a headset too quick. So you've got to get gait first. And you know, when I start a horse from scratch, a 2-year-old, the nose starts coming down naturally. When you start graduating bit, you start graduating longer shank, a little bit tighter curve. All of that starts coming together with time. You know, you've got to get one step at a time, and the gait comes first. You're not gonna take a 2 or 3-year-old and start that horse and get a world champion in 3 months anyways.
I love it. Yes, sir. Let them have that old head. It don't matter where that head's at. Don't worry about that head. Just like Jacob said, man, they need that head. They need that head to work. They gotta have that head,
man. Gotta have it.
Yeah. Yep. And once they get, the stronger they get, and like he said, you start graduating through your bits, that nose will come on down.
Yep.
You don't want to force that. You don't want to force him into anything like that.
Right.
Let him have that gait.
You know, yes, you can change a gait by forcing the head somewhere. Like I've got horses in here right now. This is what I love about the saddlebreds so much, and the half saddlebreds. With the pressure, I can take my hands in the reins, and I can raise that horse's head up and loosen the reins and get a more square gait at speed, or I can drop that head and apply more pressure and press the gas more and get a more lateral gait if I want it. So, and I know we had this question, I think, you can square a pacey going horse up by getting him his neck rolled, getting him behind the bit. You can square a pacey horse up without even going to any shoes. So you can change the motion of legs in one becoming more square or getting one more lateral by the pressure in their mouth and what you do with your hands. So, I mean, yeah, we got to go back and get the gait first. I mean, you can always critique and do this or that in further stages of training with your hands and stuff. So, you know, that's something else to think about that I really, really like. You know, the saddlebreds, I've come to find out that, man, with different pressure and different you know, where you place your hands, different pressure. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go to shoes right off the bat. You can gait a trotty horse barefoot all the way around just by the use of your hands in the correct bit.
100%. Yes, sir. It's all about how you use your hands and your feet, and where you like you said, you hold your hands high, you hold them low. You can have the wrong bit, you can switch the bits up. You know, it's all that goes into play when you start messing around these horses' gaits. And for an answer for you, ma'am, I guess sounds like me and Jacob both agree that it doesn't matter where their head is at first. Just get that 4-beat gait, and that head will come later.
Yeah.
Get that gait, get them strong in that gait, and then worry about that head later as you start graduating through the bits. Like Jacob said, they'll probably start giving you your nose anyway. So that's not nothing that's forced into them. It's just something that's more of a, you got a green horse with its head up, then you got a finished horse when he's sitting back and he's collecting on that bit. after he finishes it. After that horse is what I call a finished horse. He knows how to give the pressure, and he knows how to set his head himself. You're not forcing that. So as these horses progress through training, they'll automatically do that themselves most of the time. So, Jacob, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Guys, I hope that helped you. We'll move on. If somebody else got a question, to Robin Hayesworth. My gelding's mouthy. He licks. He wants his mouth near me all the time. He hasn't ever bit anyone yet, but I worry that it's coming. What's the best way to handle? Can you hear me, Jacob?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to plug my phone up into a charger because it's about to die.
Okay.
I hope you can still hear me without the earbuds.
I can, but I'm echoing real bad.
What about right now?
You sound good, but I'm echoing bad.
Okay. Maybe, I'll let it get a little charge on it, and I'll plug my earphones back in. I'm about to die, I think.
All I got to do is take my earphones out while I talk, and I'll be okay.
All right, so say that question.
All right, I got earphones, so if you're saying something, I can't hear you. Robin, your question was about the horse. You're getting a nice lick, and you feel like he's going to start biting. Stop him now. Don't let him be licking around on you. Pop that little nose, smack his little nose or something. He goes licking. Nah, just go ahead and pop his nose a little bit. Don't let him do it. They know you don't want that done. I got a house dog same way. He just loves to lick around and carry on, but I just know he's going to bite. So we just nip that in the bud, just like what we was talking about earlier. Me and Jacob was talking about earlier. We nip that stuff in the bud from the get-go, and don't let him know that it's okay to be licking around and biting around. A lot of stud colts are cute when they're babies. They like to bite, and they reach out there and they want to bite on your arm. It's cute until they become 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and they become aggressive. They've been let by with that so many years, and so I just nip that in the bud right now. If he's licking around on you and stuff like that, and you think he's going to you're getting a feeling he's going to bite, just go ahead and pop that nose a little bit. Just let him know what he's doing ain't good. And Jake, if you got anything you want to tune in on that question, go ahead.
I'll say this much. A horse does not care if he hurts you or not. So when you get bit and that chunk of skin comes out of your back and you sitting there on the ground crying, that horse ain't really going to care. So, yeah, it's good to be friendly to your horse and all that good stuff. And I'm not the one to let one walk over me or let one nibble on me or stuff like that, because it will lead to something else. Just like you said, I mean, I agree with everything you said, but just keep that in mind that these horses, they're not gonna care if they hurt you or not. So you kind of have to be careful, how you say things and what you say. But man, you can be friendly to a horse without letting the horse nibble all over you and lick all over you like that. And yeah, while some people may have horses who they may never try to bite you or whatever, I don't want to take that risk of it turning into something else. So
exactly.
I always think of it like that. This horse ain't gonna care if he hurts me or not. So I want to keep that respect.
Hey Troy, how you doing, man? Sup, he said. All right, next question, Aaron. Have you trained a racket mule before? I have not.
I have not.
There you go. I've never sat on a mule.
Me neither.
Never have.
A Kawasaki mule, but not a big-eared mule.
There you go. That's a short one. Wish we could help you out. I don't know if you was looking for help or not, but because of mules, I don't know. Just looking for questions.
I think I saw somebody asked, it may have been the Saddlebred lady, how do you know when to change bits or when the proper time to change bits?
Diane Altizer asked it.
Okay, so my answer would be what I'm feeling in the saddle, what I'm feeling in the mouth, that lets me know when I graduate to either. I don't necessarily graduate bits. It's me graduating shanks. So I start all my horses off in just the O-ring snaffle, and then I might ride them with that 1 week and move my second week to a broken bit on a 4-inch shank and a really loose curb. So that's kind of what I stick with for, a good 2 to 3 weeks while I'm getting that horse set in gait. And when the gait comes and when the horse starts driving onto the bit on both sides evenly, and if he gets if he starts applying a little bit more pressure on it than what I like, yeah, I can always rock him back with my hands and release that pressure and stay at the same halt. But when I start feeling that, I'll go ahead and graduate to my 6-inch shank. When you graduate to your 6-inch shank, that's a little bit more leverage than your 4-inch shank. So naturally, that nose is going to start rolling down like you like. So my answer is I know from my feel in the reins in that horse's mouth when it's time to progress, to either the next bit or the next size shank or a little bit tighter curb. When that horse and these trotty horses, you really got to drive them onto the bit. If the more trotty they are, the more you kind of need to gas them forward onto the bit and start holding them. Then when you start holding them and you get that halt, you can limit that halt with your hands.
Whoa in the front and back.
Yeah, pressing the gas and the brake at the same time. So, a lot of people let their horse keep pulling. No, you can rock that horse back and go to your same halt. You don't have to let that horse start pulling and just pulling you down. Do something about it. Rock that horse back and come to your same halt. Rock him back and come to your same halt. And then, if you need a little bit more help, go to your next size shank, or if you think you need to graduate to a solid bit with a mild hump in it, or a wonder bit or something like that, then graduate, to something like that. But that would be my advice, because I see a lot of people just letting their horses get harder and harder and harder on the bit, when you can set that horse back and you can limit your halt with your hands. Don't let that horse keep pulling you. Rock him back, set him back with your hands, and come back. When you apply pressure and you rock that horse back, then you're releasing that pressure back to him. Then if he tries to get more, rock back and releasing and come back to your same halt. And it is repetition. It's repetition. I get laughed at all the time for going out on these trail rides and not associating with people and not looking around and riding with one hand. Well, I'm training every second that I'm in the saddle. I'm perfecting that horse's mouth and the halt I want and everything. So the horse lets me know, what I'm feeling in the saddle and the halt that I've got on that horse and what that horse is doing in his mouth. I kind of gauge where I need to go with my bit and shank, depending on what that horse is doing or how he's feeling.
Good answer, man. I think you covered it great. I'm running out of time. I'm going to have to move on through these real quick. Here's one for you, Jacob. Stand Southern. You're going to like this one. Jacob, I noticed all your horses have high leg fronts when you ride. How do you accomplish that?
Well, first of all, you gotta have the horse that's bred for it. It's
yes, sir.
Every single horse that I train don't have the high leg action, but the ones that I show do, and that's just because they're talented. They're bred for it. So, I don't use any kind of gimmicks or stretchies or anything like that. Now, some of my horses may require a little bit more heavy of a shoe up front, just because I want to try to get a little bit more out of them because the client maybe wants me to show that horse. But it's no It's no pads, it's no chains, it's no stretchies, it's nothing like that. These horses that I'm showing and riding, just like my Billy the Kid horse, I mean, he's keg shot all the way around, and I mean, he's snapping his knees and doing what he's supposed to do, but he's half saddlebred. Those horses are bred to do that. Those horses are naturally animated, so when you have the correct breeding and you have a horse that's talented, whether it's a Rocky Mountain, whether it's a saddlebred, half saddlebred, these rowdy bred horses, a standard bred, if they've got the blood and the talent with proper training, that front end is going to come.
Couldn't agree with you more, Jacob. If we can make them all move like Billy the Kid, we'd be millionaires, wouldn't we?
Oh, man. I love that joker. He's a fun ride.
Yeah, he's nice. Yes, sir.
And your black horse.
He's all right for a 3-year-old.
Yep.
Oh, he's 4-year-old now.
I say he's a
decent little horse.
He's a little better than all right.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Man.
You
go back, just like you said, bloodlines.
Look at all
the bloodline on his pedigree.
Most
of them has already won international grand championships, and
yep.
there's
moving just like he was.
Yep.
Nothing
made there. It's bred into him.
I will say this: a lot of my horses that are you take the American Muscle Horse, Billy the Kid horse, Falcon's Blue Ribbon. They're all half saddlebred. That's why I love the saddlebred. I love the breeding of the saddlebred. It just puts that elegance on them. It puts that show ring vibe on them. It gives them the animation. Now, every single one of them ain't gonna be great. I'm not saying that 100% of them turn out to be exceptional, but yeah, it's all in the breeding, in the proper training.
Just read those comments. Lori Grice asked, do you both train all breeds of gaited horses? What age do you start to train your horses? For me, it's not an age thing, personally. I'm not about starting a 2-year-old. But I have had, I'm going to take easier because that's direct on. I'm not about starting a 2-year-old. But I can also tell you that I have 3-year-olds that are not big enough to start yet. I can't wait till they get a little bigger. It's more of a, I do like them to be at least 2, but they got to be. They also got to have the build for it, and they got to be strong enough that I feel they can handle the training that's getting ready to happen. Like I said, I've got 3-year-olds out here right now that I don't. I've ridden them a few times, but I don't ride them much just because they're just not big enough. They're a little slower growing. They're mountain horses, and they're just kind of small. But I've had Tennessee horses. I've seen 2-year-old Tennessee horses, 16 hands. I mean, they're huge. They're big enough. I'm going to go ahead and start them. I've had some vets come out before too and confirm that their knees is closed and things like that before we ever start them too. And once I know their knees is closed and they're big enough to handle when I get ready to put them through, I'll go ahead and start them. It's not really an age thing to me. It's more of a size and a strength thing for me. But I've started plenty of 2-year-olds and said I've got 3-year-olds out here that I can't start yet just because they're not big enough. So that's my answer to that one. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm right with you on that. I kind of go by the size and the build and the stature, the conformation also, because like I'm just like you. I've had 3-year-olds that were still too small to start, that I wanted to give them more time. But like you said, if I get I'm not just a terribly big guy, 170 pounds, 5'7" at the best. So I'm gonna start them at 2 years old if they're showing a good.
Yeah, you got an advantage on me.
Yeah. So
I was 6'3", about 250.
Yeah, We've gotten the vet out, Dad and I have, a couple of times just to confirm that 2-year-olds' knees are closed up at 2 years old. So don't be bashing people who start horses at 2 years old. The knees can be closed at 2 years old. So, yeah, if that horse is the proper size and has, you know, everything going for him and he's big enough, yeah, I'm gonna start that horse. But, you know, if I do see one needs some more growing and maturing, I'm definitely going to relay that over to the client. Hey, I think we need to wait another 6 months, another year, let this horse grow.
Gotta have common sense too. You can't just push these horses for everything. When you're starting them, you start lightly. And just 15 minutes a day on a horse has been started. A lot of people. I have this a lot too. I have people that want to send a horse up here to break, and I start a lot of horses under saddle, but. And I'll tell them, they'll say, will you ride him an hour a day, at least an hour a day, 5 days a week? No. On a young horse, I won't ride him an hour a day. I'll work with your horse for an hour a day. We're going to do groundwork. But usually when I'm starting a young one like that, usually for the first few weeks, it's 15, 20 minutes max under saddle, and they're already worked up a good sweat. When they get hot and sweaty, that's enough for them. I'll call it quits, but I'll work with him on the ground, and we'll do a lot of things on the ground first. But as far as riding goes, it ain't 15, 20 minutes at a time, and I do that 4 or 5 days a week. And by the time you're 2 or 3 weeks into this, you notice that the horse can go further without getting as tired and things like that. And you know what the horse is capable of. You gotta have a good common sense and not kill a young horse. Just don't keep pushing. When your horse gets tired, and just give him a break. Don't ask him too much. Just like Jacob talked about earlier today, you can burn him out too easy too. You don't want to get him burned out. You don't want him to start rebelling on you. Make it nice and easy for the horse, easy as you can for him. Give him 10 or 15 minutes starting off, then as you progress through training, just add to your time. Go 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30. And next thing you know, you're up to an hour trail ride. Just build your horse up. Don't push him too hard at first. That's how I do it anyway.
And I mean, a lot of your best training in establishing control and guidance over that horse is from standstills and walking around. So, I mean, training is not just strictly gaiting. I do a lot of my training, whether it's side passing or gaining control, getting the horse bridle-wise. I mean, we're either at a standstill or a walk. So you can teach a horse a lot, whether it's side passing, reversing, flexing, just, without the horse being in locomotion. So that's easy. That's easier and better on the horse's body also. So you're actually under saddle, teaching the horse very good lessons just standing still or at a walk.
Got one more question here. I'm going to have to cut this off. I was planning for 30 minutes, so it's been over an hour. But
yes,
Bruce McClure, have you guys ever tried pushing downhill, giving gas, working a bit to get the front end working? Am I echoing? Can you hear me echoing, Jacob?
No, you're good on my end.
It's echoing bad on me. Anyway, Bruce, the only time I try to go gassing down hills and working a bit is usually when I'm trying to push the trot out of them. I like to gas them down a hill and work that bit and get them up in the bridle as you speak, or get them on the bit. I'll never work for a front end. I don't work a horse just trying to establish a front end. I just try to get my full beat gait. If I need to push him down a hill and get back on his mouth just a little bit, sometimes that's been a pretty helpful tool to me in the past. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I'm like you, man. Especially these saddlebreds and half saddlebreds. Anything trotty with a trotty gait. Your downhill grades are just going to help you out tremendously in achieving that gait, not necessarily training for the front end. Horses like that are pretty much naturally going to have it. I will work them uphill to strengthen the back end, but, your downhill grades, you're working on gait. Like I said, I've never really used any any gimmicks or anything. Maybe a weighted shoe at times on certain horses if they need it, but you know, I'm not necessarily right off the bat training for front end. That comes with training. So your downhill grades on a trotty type horse is gonna help you out a lot.
Keg shoe.
Yeah, buddy.
We was going to talk about this, but I'm out of time. Maybe we can do this again. That's half hitch for one. Also a keg. This is a regular keg with a heel. This is a regular keg. Flat, no heel. That's a trotter shoe. We're going to talk about that another day. Good old toe weight. We're going to cover some of this tonight, guys. I just ain't got the time. Long story short, what I was going to do with them shoes is I was just going to let you know that if every horse was the same, then we would just need one set of shoes. We'd do all the horses in the world, wouldn't he? Every horse is different, and there's different shoes for different applications. So, these shoes mean something. The heels mean something. The flats mean something. The weights mean something. The toe weight means something. They all do things to make a horse what it is sometimes. And like Jacob said, we're not going to make it do things that it ain't. If that's what we do to help that horse perform in an area that it's already bred to do, and sometimes you can add things like this to it. Every one of these shoes has a purpose, and we'll talk about that. I was going to talk about that today, but I'm just out of time. But looks like I'm echoing pretty bad. Everybody says I'm echoing, but I don't know why. It's poor quality service or what, but. Jacob, if you got anything you want to add right quick before we shut this off.
Man, the only thing I'll add, we'll do it again. Let's do it again.
Real quick, Jane Jean was asking if we was going to do any clinics together. Me and you've talked about this, and I've never done a clinic before in my life. But I'm willing to, and I'd be honored to have you.
Let's do it. I'd be honored to do it with you.
I'm working on renting a place out locally here. It'll be about the first or second week of October, and there will be there's a hotel on site. There's a barn on site with 20 stalls. And there's camper outlets everywhere for your horse trotters. You just plug in. It is not indoor. And I wish it was. But I may be holding a clinic there. It's not set in stone yet. If I do, I would like to invite you to come with me.
I'll do it, man. It'd be an honor. And I mean, anytime in the future that you want to make a trip up here, I've got the place. I've got the indoor facility here. We've got a indoor riding arena. We've got a covered 200-foot hallway barn. So I mean, it would be where we could set it up and do something here. I've had one clinic here. So I mean, we've got the perfect setup here to be out of the elements, and even if it is pretty, we can go outside too. But shoot, yeah, man. I'd be honored to have you up here, and I'd be honored to come down there. So we'll definitely set it up and get something going together.
Sounds good to me, man. I do have a clinic scheduled. Somebody invited me to have one. Anita Burrow invited me to come to Greenville, Arizona, November the 9th and 10th. Terrified of airplanes, but we're going to go. So that'll be my first one. We're going to go down there and see how it goes, and I may hate it. I don't know. I always figured it'd be easier to train a horse than it would be human.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Jacob, man, thanks for tuning in with us.
Hey, man, I appreciate you having me. Let's do it again. And everybody, feel free to message us with questions or any topic you'd like for us to talk about, and we'll try to start doing this pretty regularly.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sounds good to me.
Guys,
thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it. Jacob, have a good one.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.